fancy intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, I want to talk about an officer that you're going to find in the current territory battle pass, but whose sourcing is relatively limited. That said, she's important enough to bring up. Now, she does have some sourcing, and I will cover that towards the end. Right now, you're looking at places if you're a lower level player in like the territory battle pass. Today, we're going to talk about Wrath of Khan Carol, why she's important, and number one, why I waited until now to make this video. And short answer to that being, well, because sourcing is scarce, but more sourcing is becoming available. And if you're free to play, there are two ways to source currently. And number one is going to be the depot tokens that we've looked at before, those officer depot tokens. And then you'll find her in the augment faction again currently. More ways are coming. But should you have, whether via treasury, battle pass, etc., ended up with her, well, what exactly do you get? A lot of the numbers in STFC can be hard to understand, mostly because, well, this game has a real big problem of not explaining exactly what everything means. So for example, you look at this log, there's a difference between this log and the previous log. What's the difference? She's there. Can you tell what it is? Probably not. That's why we're going to jump into the math today, and we'll explain why she's so valuable and what she actually provides for you. And we'll use multiple accounts to do that, because if you're a high level player, don't think this is just a low level video. You want this information as well. So the ability that we're focusing on is Null Hypothesis. It is a below deck ability that maxes out at 25% at rank 5. That's important. We're going to be taking a look at why it's important here in just a second, but do note that it's important. So when you take damage from a non-armada hostile, Carol increases your shield mitigation by 5% for 1 round, and it is cumulative. Big question is, what is shield mitigation? Because we have seen shield mitigation as specifically a piercing and mitigation stat. That's that shield deflection and shield piercing. But what it's talking about is actually how much your shields do in battle. So in the instance that I just brought up, let's take a look at the second log. Second log, you're going to come in here and take a look at some of the shots. This is what you want to focus on right here. This is focusing on Carol right in that fourth line. So damage done. You're going to take the mitigated damage, subtract that from the standard damage, which brings you what, to 1,992. Then you're going to divide whatever is left of the shield by what's ever left of the damage. So what that ends up showing you is we should see 85%, right? So again, let's do this one. 2,440 minus 448, that's easy math. That's gonna be 1,992. And then you're going to then divide 1,693 by 1,992. I know, we're doing math, bear with me. But what that means is this shield modifier right here, where it says shield health damage, that means it took 85% as opposed to 80. Now you might go, Rev, where do you get 80%? Good news, big, beautiful graphic. Now, if you've not seen this before, this is how we educate players on how the game of Starship Fleet Command works. How the shields work. Well, the simple of it is, shields stop any non-mitigated damage 80%. Whatever has made it through the mitigation portion, the ISO portion, all of this is going to run into shields. Then those shields will stop 80% of whatever is left. After you do all those calculations, we mitigate, we deflect, etc., then we get to shields. So as you can see there, we have 80% plus or minus all additive bonuses. Additive bonuses, things like Strange New World Pike, etc. And then you also have this, which is multiplicative bonuses, which is just basically a little bit something different. But I wanted this here to explain the basics of how this works. So what does that turn into with what we were just looking at? Q-Snap. Here is how we can compare. Let's compare it to Janeway, another officer many of you are very familiar with Wrath of Khan Carol. So Wrath of Khan Carol, tier 1 below decks, is going to bring your shield mitigation, as we just saw, to 85%. Now by comparison, a tier 1 Janeway by herself on the bridge is 86%. So slightly worse, 1% worse in round 1. So that's a 5-round example. In round 1, a tier 1 Janeway is slightly better than a tier 1 Carol, but Janeway requires the bridge. Now, if you add 1 synergy, which is very common, we see a lot of players running Janeway Doc, right? Janeway Doc Anorax being very common, for example, that brings up to 93%. So with Wrath of Khan Carol, what are we really looking at? So if you get her to tier 3, though, you'll notice by round 2, your shield mitigation is now at 1 or 100%, meaning your shields will stop everything going to the hull as long as the shields are up. This is what's made Janeway so powerful for so long, is she'll work the same way, as you can see on this chart, where you could, depending on your Janeway, have a Janeway with 1 synergy by round 2, making shields the most important element of your battle. Of course, that is to the point until they fail, right? Once a shield goes down, it no longer provides any relevance and it will, not be there. But until that point, you're going to see a high increase in survivability for your ships. Now, we can see this on bigger accounts as well. So if we swap on over to one of these accounts with the power of editing, bam, it appears, and you're going to see a very common crew: Janeway, EMH Doc, Anorax. Now, you'll also see, I talked about high levels here. There's a high level crew that many of you high levels have started using quite a bit. We're actually going to change this by group, and we'll go grab it so we can talk about what that is. So we're going to put you up there, and then let's go find Mr. Suitor. Gosh, it'd probably be easier if I just do a name search, wouldn't it? Oh, never mind, he's right down there. Bam. This is also very common. Why do I bring this up? Janeway, Suitor, Seska is something that a lot of high levels run. Well, here's the power of Wrath of Khan Carol, should you have her. If you have Wrath of Khan Carol, we don't need Janeway up there. We can swap Janeway out for somebody else, and that we don't need her captain's ability. Right, again, single Janeway compared to having a Wrath of Khan Carol will allow you to change the officer. A lot of players will use Chang there. It's actually something that ECO and I have talked about a lot, but keep in mind that ECO has a very powerful Wrath of Khan Carol. But if we're talking about Janeway versus Wrath of Khan Carol, the viability is in the usability. You open up more options for you if you have Wrath of Khan Carol below decks, meaning you aren't as reliant on Janeway. Or you could do something like this, and then have on your second ship, that be part of your below deck run with her, so that you're giving 2 ships now that shield bonus, as in putting more into the shields. Now, again, as you get her tiered higher and higher, you see you have her tier 2 on a level 63 account, tier 1 on a level 38 account. A lot of this comes down to sourcing. Now, more of that will be coming with her as it is with newer officers, but now that she is available, if you jump into your 40 plus accounts, you should see her in the Officer Depot tokens. And as we said before, she's available in the actual augment faction, albeit relying on your Reliant to be tier 15. So that's really not going to apply to most people. But what you are seeing is more sourcing in things like battle passes, the territory pass, and these little pick 'em ups that we can find. Even now and then you'll see her in a treasury. And it's one of these things where it's worth making sure that you take note. Now, the reason that we don't talk about her as loudly as we do things like Wrath of Khan Joachim is simply because he has better sourcing. That's really what it comes down to. But in terms of actual effect in the game, she is hands down one of the better ones. In fact, the whole Wrath of Khan group came in and really changed the dynamic of raiding. You had dynamic of hostile defense. You had a better version of Tom Paris from McCoy. Savick is no slouch in her own right. Joachim is arguably the best below deck officer in the game right now. Then you have Carol. Scotty also has some value. And this also, again, is opening up opportunities to do more things below decks, more things on the bridge because of what we're stacking below decks specifically for these runs. Now, again, you can split these 2 up, but the truth is either route you go, you're getting good value. And again, it goes back to how shields work. Again, you're stopping 80% natively, but if we can jump that and within 2 rounds make it to where shields are stopping 100%, that's even better. And then throw in the fact that we have things like morale, which we can regenerate our shields with thanks to the Star Path research, which does have access in the early and high levels of the game. That's going to be that morale shield regen right here. That can help play into this as well. As long as shields are active, they stop the damage. So if you can increase your survivability, you want to. And obviously both Janeway and Wrath of Khan Carol do that. So this video has educated you a little bit on the importance of. Wish I just had better on officer sourcing. That's why this video took so long. But if you have questions about this, drop them down in the comment section down below. Live long and plunder. Stay safe with their Space Cowboys. Deuce, that's me. Catch you on the next one. As always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.